Rob, what on earth did you do? Yeah, what on earth did I do? I guess I've been watching too many of those cold steel knives proof test videos on YouTube. I went out and got me a it's either a vicious killer or a movie prop. I can't decide which. But my stormy love-hate relationship with Lynn Thompson and the boys at Cold Steel continues. Today we're going to talk about the Cold Steel Talwar XL. Stick with me, guys. Hi gang, Rob here. It is the afternoon of August 2014. Got an afternoon off work. It's a little too hot and muggy to be cutting the grass, so I thought I'd make a video. It's one I've been wanting to do for a week or so ever since this beast came in the mail. What is it? Well, it's the Cold Steel Talwar XL. The construction and materials are fairly familiar. Let's kind of run down what we got here. We have an Andrew Demko designed triad lock back lock with what is becoming known as an extremely robust handle construction. We've got these over 3/16 of an inch thick slabs of G10, no liners of any kind, just a big long aluminum backspacer. Housing the Demko triad lock mechanism, no need to go into that in detail. If you watch my channel, you know what it is. We have a handle 7.5 inches long, a blade sort of a Persian style, modeled after the Talwar sword. We might call it a trailing point in a knife. Os 8A stainless steel, flat ground to a gorgeous satin finish with the lightning swedge here in the spine. Look at the profile of that spine, would you? Tell me that doesn't look vicious. Doesn't come super sharp from the factory, at least mine didn't. We've remedied that, however. You know we've remedied that. I just love the way this Cold Steel Os 8 sharpens. And as you've seen in my Recon 1 hard use testing video, hangs onto that edge pretty well too. Yeah, enough of that. Clean up my mess here. Okay, so we know it cuts. We know the steel performs very well for its price point and the budget. Gotta wipe these fingerprints, guys. We've got deployment via a jimped thumb plate. And as you guys know, the Cold Steel offerings that have that, they're also pretty effective in the wave deployment method coming out of your pants. In fact, there's not room to deploy this knife and do it justice in front of the camera here at the sharpening bench. So check out this little piece of video I just shot out in the backyard. It kind of shows you the various methods by which you can put this 5.5 inch beast into action. Oh, by the way, did I mention all this wickedness at a mere 8.1 ounces? Yeah, sure is. It's like almost 13 inches of knife open. 8.1 ounces. And check this out. Balance point. Dead nuts in the index finger choil. The knife handles like nothing. Nothing. It's unbelievable for a movie prop. Anyway, check out the deployment video. Be right back. Okay guys, I want to take a look at the pocketability and deployment of the XL Talwar, and it's better than you think. I'm going to sort of change camera angles here and we'll show you what I mean. I'm going to first kind of draw it out of the pocket and take a look at the wave feature. Okay, I'm certainly no expert at this, but as you can see, it is all the way in the pocket, and these are just a pair of khaki shorts. And here's how it looks coming out. Also, a pretty standard thumb flick. You do need some wrist. And if you come out of the pocket without waving, turn the knife 180 degrees in your hand, and out she comes. Not as much of an unwieldy beast as you might think. Okay guys, believe it or not, that is not quite as good as I can do, especially waving it out of the pocket. You can do it a lot more smoothly than I did. I have to tell you though, the standard thumb deployment, you have to overcome a lot of fear before you're ready to fire that one out. Because that blade doesn't get past the cam point and you happen to have a finger in the way. It's a freaking guillotine, guys. It really is. And I have developed a way to span my hand onto the handle and actually do a drop of the blade to close it one-handed. It's so hard to do in this close quarters, but as long as you get your finger, your index finger, up into this area, you can't really hurt yourself. Your index finger is going to stop on the ricasso. So, but I'll tell you what, it's not without some trepidation that you get to know this knife. In fact, I probably should have gotten to know it a little better before I sharpened it, because it's nasty. It really is. Okay, let's talk about the good stuff. The good stuff is, of course, triad lockup, and rigidity and stability. It's like a 13-inch fixed blade, guys. You can't accidentally release the blade. Look how much of that lock bar has to be sticking up before it lets go. And look, it snaps shut like a freaking gator's mouth, doesn't it? As with most triad locks, they're rather crudely stamped and ground. The parts take some cycling before they really settle in with each other, and as with most of them, that initial snap sometimes happens and the lock bar doesn't fully seat. You can get sometimes just a minuscule bit of up and down play, but once you wiggle them a little bit, it just sort of works its way down into that slot. And generally, as they age, that lockup gets sweeter and smoother. Also, the release, you can hear it sort of stick and click. That generally gets better with time too. I normally do a bit of a fluff and buff on my cold steel knives, but I don't think I'm going to with this one. I'm just going to let it get better with age. Listen to that thwack. I don't know, what's more intimidating, a 12 gauge shotgun or that? Especially if you're a bad guy and you get to see that thing glinting in the street lights in the alley. Oh, wow. Okay, here's some more of the stuff, the normal stuff. This pocket clip, which there are two of, one for right hand carry, one for left. They're curved, so they're curved in an opposite fashion. So there have to be two. They come painted black. I sat and finished mine and did my normal underclip modification. I just sand that G10 smooth. There's no loss in function by removing those peaks. of the texture. The clip's still plenty tight. The handle thickness is not effectively reduced. I don't see any reason to slather it with JB Weld and sand it smooth. No reason for that. I mean, it's just a crude beast. I just prefer the satin clip to match the satin blade. One reason I went with the Talwar over my other choice in the Mega Cold Steel, the Espada Large, which the large Espada is the same size as the extra large Talwar, both 5.5-inch blades. You can buy an Espada with a 7-inch blade, 7 inches. But anyway, I went with the Talwar, even though I prefer the clip blade shape of the Espada a little bit more than this one. I wanted this satin finish from the factory instead of the bead blast. Maybe I should have looked at a Recon 1 XL and removed the coating. Maybe. Anyway, this is what I got. I've got a Recon 1 clip point, so. And I think that trailing point is menacing, isn't it? I mean, you can stab and slash from about any direction with that thing. The grip or grips on this knife, let's take a look at them. Standard saber grip is unbelievably secure. This jimping that spans both handle scales and the spine of the lock bar is not super sharp, but it's a great index point. It's a little bit grippy, and let's face it, look at this dimension versus this dimension. How are you ever going to go? You don't even have to grip the knife tightly. You're never going forward on that thing. It is locked in. And then we can back up one notch to here, sort of a modified pistol grip, or we can go all the way back to here. Guys, I don't have my tape measure handy, but if that blade's 5.5 inches long, there's another 3 inches to my thumb. So from this point where I'm gripping the knife to the point of that blade is about 8.5 inches. That's some serious reach for a folding knife, isn't it? And I've got that thing completely locked in. There's no way you're going to slip forward on that knife. It's really a nice design. How about the reverse grip? Again, you can be all the way up here. You can come back one notch. You can come back two. And again, super secure. How about the draw cut? Should you ever decide to use this knife for any like utility function, the draw cut, very comfortable. Even that pronounced finger choil does not dig into the web of the hand. It's very comfortable for some draw cutting. The pinch grip, you can even come, I wouldn't really recommend this, it's not a choil, but you can choke up on that thing. This pinch grip, pretty comfortable, and because of the great balance with all that handle back there, the knife is pretty nimble. It ain't no EDC blade, but you know, it is not a movie prop. You know, other knife companies snicker and laugh at these mega cold steel folders, don't they? I know Nothing Fancy a couple of years ago talked to Sal Glesser about that. You know, why doesn't Spyderco make some knives to compete with these big cold steels? And Sal kind of laughed it off, chuckled like it was stupid. Well, gotta wipe the blade. I'm here to tell you, and you guys know what I do for a living. I manage a car dealership. There's no way I'm carrying this thing every day. But I can see situations in life where you would, and it fits in a well-made pair of khaki shorts. You know, if the pocket is 7 inches deep, it goes all the way to the bottom, but it fits, and you can sit down with it. So it's not totally impractical for a defensive carry knife, and it only weighs 8.1 ounces. There are a lot of knives not nearly as capable that weigh in at that figure. A lot of really expensive custom knives that are this heavy and can't compete with this reach and cutting ability. Now, let me tell you my thoughts on why other knife companies don't do this. Well, because they can't. It's not easy. And let me show you one reason it's not easy. When you're grinding a piece, first of all, you make a blade that's 5.5 inches long, so it's almost 7 inches long to the back of the tang. and then you grind 5.5 inches of it after it's been heat treated, with all the stresses involved in doing that, you try keeping it straight. So when you close the knife, and granted, this knife is not quite on center, and there is a perceptible curve in that blade. I don't know if you can really see it on camera, but there is. That's probably about as good as you can do on a blade that long. I mean, it's not perfect, but guys, that tip is over 6 inches from the pivot, and what is it, maybe off center a 32nd of an inch? I think knife companies who are, let's say who have a reputation for making things more precise than Cold Steel does, don't want to embarrass themselves in this market. You know, how many manufacturers can make a knife that you can grab 5 or 6 inches from the pivot and move it sideways and up and down, and it has no play? Yet when you release the lock, the knife drops almost freely and falls somewhere near the center of the handle for $100. That's why I think other people don't do it. You know, Cold Steel they're not regarded as being a highly precise knife manufacturer. So, you know, they release a knife like this, it's a tick off center. Who cares? Nobody's going to fault them for that. Spyderco does it, Benchmade does it. The forums are going to go crazy about what a piece of junk this big knife is. That's why they don't make them. Does Cold Steel sell any of these? You bet they do. Let's face it, 95% of them are probably never going to be used in the role which they're shown in on the CS Knives YouTube channel on proof test videos. But knife guys just think they're fun. I know I do. Isn't that cool looking? Oh. Now here's what kind of blows about these knives. And I will qualify this by saying more current versions of this have a different plunge grind. But look at this one. Guess what, guys? Rob's going to complain about plunge grind issues again. Actually, this one's not horrible. You can see where the plunge starts and where it terminates, where about right there is where it terminates. Problem is, the factory sharpening notch is less than half that big. It's about 150 thousandths across, and then you have 3/16 of an inch of completely unsharpened edge, and then the edge starts. And the factory edge starts about exactly where this edge does, but with 3/16 of an inch of unsharpened ridiculous material laying there. I of course modified my sharpening notch, and really it's fairly to scale on a knife blade this long, so it doesn't bother me a bit. Newer versions have a Spyderco-like almost 90-degree plunge, and that small sharpening notch that Cold Steel puts in just about nails it. Again, a small detail in a knife like this. Construction quality, and yes, I've had this knife apart. Went in to do a little bit of a fluff and buff on the moving parts and really didn't find much to do. The suspension system is the typical triad lock G10 Cold Steel deal. Fairly large phosphor bronze washers with Teflon washers paper thin between the phosphor bronze washers and the blade. It gives you buttery smoothness, fast deployment. I said fast deployment. Really? There. Guys, you have no idea the quarters, the closeness of the quarters I'm working in here, and I can't see past the camera. But it flies out with authority when you do it right. The thumb disc is a little hard to master because it's not really a disc, it's a square plate. I'm still trying to decide when I'm flicking it out. Do I want to try to get the corner? Do I want to come up on the side a little bit? It's just, Not easy. But who cares? You wave it out of your pocket. Do I like it? Heck yes, I like it. Takes up a lot of space on my shelf, though. If you're wondering whether you should get one of these, just throw practicality out the window. A knife guy needs one of these knives. Doesn't matter. Get an XL Recon, get an XL Talwar, get a large Espada. Heck, if you're get the extra large Espada, the 7.5-inch blade if you want. They just make you smile, and they can actually do what they look like they could do. Most remarkable thing about this knife is how thin the blade is. I think it's 3.5 millimeters thick, which only happens right here and right here. And it's full flat ground, and it gets super skinny behind the edge. Guys, this is my standard 15 degree precise secondary bevel, and it's not super broad. So that tells me 25 thousandths maybe behind the edge, maybe 30. And very consistent all the way to the tip. Try doing that. Look at the size of that secondary bevel at the tip. Follow it all the way back. It really doesn't change much. Try executing that grind. Another reason the big boys don't tackle these projects. Where does it come from? Yeah, you guessed it. Taiwan. Those guys can make some knives. They sure can. Well, kind of a short one. Just thought you guys would like to see this and hear hear what I thought about it. It's just totally not me. I'm not a silly knife kind of guy. But I am a Talwar XL kind of guy. Have a great rest of your day, my friends. Grace to you and peace from God our Father and the Lord Jesus Christ. And remember, the Word and Rob's Talwar XL are sharp.